Good morning, good day, everybody. This is Engineering Weekly 28. I'm Robert Jordan. I'm joined here with, we have technical support. One moment, please. We're trying to hook up the webcam to the TV in the room here. Unfortunately, we couldn't figure it out. That doesn't say a lot about our engineering skills. Please don't judge us on that. So you might have noticed that you have a new talking head today. Phil's asked me in all of his busyness and activities to lead the engineering call. So I'm a part of the engineering team. Phil is our CTO and has been doing this for some time. Appreciate all the hard work that he's done to get us to this point. So I'll be leading the calls moving forward. Phil will also be on vacation starting when, Phil?
End of July.
End of July. Sorry, I might have, spoiler alert, you might have wanted to share that on the call with you guys. Anyhow, so the agenda, Phil's done, again, an excellent job with the agenda and such, and so we were thinking that potentially we'd like to change things up and do something maybe a little bit different. So on the Engineering Weekly agenda that I sent out in Discord, you'll see a little bit different of a schedule, but not too much. And so what we'd like to do is this call is for our community, and since our community is critically important to the success of our project, we want to make sure that we're doing everything that we need to be doing on these calls in order to get you the information you need, and also answer any questions or give you direction that you might need when you're coding or engineering or doing some work for us. So with that said, we really appreciate your feedback. You can send that in Discord or on Telegram, and those are the best ways to connect with us, obviously the engineering channel in Discord. Make sure if you're not part of that, you're joined up and you're communicating with the core team. So, an important day today. Does anyone know what day it is? Phil?
Engineering Weekly Day?
It is Engineering Weekly Day, but more importantly, any guesses from the audience of what day it is? It's one of my favorites. Okay. So, it's Superman Day. And so, in honor of Superman, I was, it's a really important day for me, quite frankly, and I was looking for my cape at home this morning, and I couldn't quite find it. So in honor to Superman and blockchain, I do have a makeshift cape here. And if you can see that, it's Colorado blockchain, right? So I will put the cape on in honor of the past, present, and Superman.
I think he needs to turn on the audio so that people can actually see this, because he's muted, so the camera probably doesn't shift to his. I don't think it's shifted, so I advise you to do it.
So, hey, Phil, why don't you mute?
Yeah, hold on one sec.
Okay, everybody. You saw a lot of video there and no audio whatsoever. That was in honor of Superman Day. An important holiday for me. I couldn't find my cape at home, so I had to improvise with the Colorado blockchain flag as a cape. And if any of you on the call happens to put on their favorite cape or favorite Superman outfit and put a picture of yourself in Discord for the engineering team, we'll send you a Market Protocol swag kit, including t-shirt stickers and potentially some other items. So looking forward to seeing that in the Discord channel.
Would you turn your volume up on yours if you haven't?
Good. Let me know if that's helpful or not. All right, so let's do this. We've got a number of people on the call, and let's quickly go around, if we could. I'm going to mute myself and just do a quick round of introductions of who's on the call so we get an idea of core team and also contributors from the community. Again, I'm Robert Jordan with the core team engineering here at Market Protocol.
Travis Mathis, engineering team at Market Protocol.
Lazar, a community manager for Market Protocol.
Perfect. Contributor to Market Protocol.
Dan, future contributor and former business partner of Travis.
Yeah, what's up, Dan? I didn't realize it was that day.
Hey.
Hey guys, this is Ishwar. I'm a developer at Market Protocol.
And what's up? I'm Tommy, also a Gitcoin contributor to Market Protocol.
Hey everyone, I'm Phil Sasser, CTO and co-founder of Market Protocol. Awesome to have everyone on the call this morning. Appreciate everyone, especially the new people that are joining. Dan and Tommy, it's great to have you guys both here.
Sweet, thanks guys. So in the agenda, one of the things I was taking a look at was just to get an idea of what our community looks like in the way of some numbers. And I decided to get into the GitHub API a bit and just pull some general data down. This is kind of a first pass. I don't know if it's going to be helpful for us, but I thought I would share it with the individuals on the call. I'm looking at the Engineering Weekly agenda, and let me make sure to make sure everyone's on the same page here. I'll send that as a chat. Oh, there we go. Ezra's already done that. Thank you very much. So when you take a look at our major repos, and I could discuss what each of these are as well. So the big ones that you'll see is the Market Protocol one, which Market Protocol, the dApp, the website, market.js, and our types repo. These are the ones that are quite active on a daily, weekly basis. And so our Market Protocol repo is the one that has our Solidity contracts in it and the love to what we do here at Market. The dApp is obviously our distributed application that allows for the end user to interact with our protocol and also demonstrate the functionality of how the derivative markets work from our perspective. The website obviously is our external website presence, which is a lot to do with our marketing. Market.js, this is a relatively new project, one of which is quite critical to the success of what we do as an organization, because what we do is enabling distributed exchanges to provide derivatives contracts on the blockchain. This one you'll see to be, again, of great importance and the main integration point for all of our third-party relationships. And then finally, our types, which we use TypeScript, so we try to maintain a healthy definition library of our types. And we're in a bit of a transition here right now, just because we have a lot of activity in Market.js. So we're moving some things around. So if things break on you and you're working on Market.js, make sure you take a look at both the types and the Market.js protocol or Market.js library, because the types that you're looking for might be in one or the other. So any questions or comments on the repos themselves, any of the activities in the repos, and if this information is helpful or not? Okay, I'm taking the silences. It's useful. I'll continue to provide some of this information. If it stops being useful or you want to see something different, please let me know. Yes. I think Phil figured out the secret sauce. Okay, next section here, notable commits. So there are core commits, team member commits, and there are the community. And so we just want to take an opportunity to recognize by our major repos the contributors that have done a lot of work this week. And so what I'm finding as I look at the data is that the number of commits continues to grow on a weekly and a monthly basis. And so it gets a little difficult to find specific items to call out. We do also want to make sure that we do that and shout out to individuals that have been very strong contributors to our community. And so if you just take a look at the market protocol, as you might notice, Phil is a major contributor across all of our repositories as being the founder and really a chief architect for a long period of time. He's contributed greatly to the project. Travis is new to the team. In fact, I think, Travis, you started full-time on Monday. Is that correct?
Sorry, I forgot to unmute. Yes, that's correct. I started on Monday.
Cool. And you came to us from where, Travis?
I was a contributor to Gitcoin on Gitcoin. So I'm currently the number one, or at least I was the number one contributor on Gitcoin. And so I had put out a post that I was looking, I was a full-time freelancer before this. So I had my own business with Dan, who is actually on this call. And we were both freelancers who just kind of conglomerated together to do bigger projects than just one of us could handle. And so I had put out a post for some longer term work, and I did a pretty big project right off the bat for Phil. And I enjoyed working on it, and now I'm here. So that's how I got here.
That's awesome, man. We're happy to have you here. And, you know, if your first week is any indication of the future, it looks really bright. We really appreciate your contributions and all your experience bringing it in. So thanks.
No problem. I'm really excited. Thanks for having me.
All right. So again, a lot of activity across all of our repos. We really appreciate the efforts and the energies that everyone's contributed here. I'll try to get a little bit more data behind you know, the individuals and summarizing some of this. But again, also, I don't want to lose track of if there's somebody that has done an outstanding job this week that we do a shout out. So I really I like to recognize individuals for a contribution to the project and such. So don't let me always have to do that. If you feel as if you'd like to shout out to somebody else, this is the section to be able to do that. And so, you know, don't be shy either. So, we like our community. All right, the next section. So Phil and I were talking, and it was interesting because a lot of times in a project that's moving as quickly as we are, we break things and we change, and we don't really mean to, but there are things that we like, hey, you got to watch out for. So we just decided to do just a quick roundtable shout out here for like, hey, if you know of something that you bumped into this week that could really help somebody else out, I just want to give us an opportunity to go around to say, hey, I found this thing, be aware of this situation, because it might save you hours worth of work. And I think one of the situations was with Truffle, and something that I think Phil bumped into. Am I correct with that, Phil?
Yeah, I'll just come over here to chat. Yeah, the conferencing software is still figuring it all. Yeah, so across the repos, we are upgrading the Truffle version. And one of the changes that happened between, I think, 4.1.11 and 4.1.13 is the ability for Truffle to support NPM namespaces. So our organization at Market Protocol now has that namespace, and all of the NPM packages will follow at Market Protocol / name of the package itself. So the solidity has changed from market solidity to at Market Protocol / Market Protocol, which is what's been published most recently in the 1.2.0 release. So Truffle now supports that. So the migration scripts can now support that as well. So if you're on an older version of Truffle and trying to work on some of the repos, you may come into that issue if you're trying to deploy any of the contracts to your local environment. So just something to be aware of if you're getting errors and can't figure it out. I think everything is across the board. It very shortly will be on the newest version of Truffle.
Great, thanks, Phil. Any questions along those lines? Anything else that anyone's bumped into this week that might help someone else out as their Devin?
I guess real quick, something I just came across last night is it was helpful to run in the market.js repo when running tests beforehand, cleaning the environment with migrate reset seemed to allow the tests to run more smoothly. I think there may be like some cruft getting left over from previous test runs that are causing future test runs to fail, but running a migrate reset seemed to fix that anytime I ran the test.
Yeah, Tommy, totally great point. A recent commit actually created the issue where you have to have a clean environment every time. I believe Crypto Mental, who's one of our contributors, has a fix to that hasn't made it into the develop branch yet. But that's also a really great point that right now those tests are dependent upon having a completely clean deployment of those contracts. So yeah, we'll hopefully get that fixed in the next few days. There's an issue to track it in the market.js repo, but apologies for that one. It's kind of frustrating. It's you're constantly migrating to run a test every time.
Awesome.
Anything else, anyone that's, and the other thing too is that I realize that because we work so close together and we're on Discord all the time, it might be second nature to some of us. The other thing to always think about is that there are people that hopefully will watch this engineering call and get some other information out of it. So, you know, it's live on tape for a lot of people. So if you have something that you've been working with, please make sure you do share that.
So just one more thing that I ran into this week. As we were upgrading the types to the most recent release of the Solidity code, there's no nice error message when you're using a mismatch between the types that are generated and the Solidity smart contracts that are actually deployed. There's nothing to alert you to that. You'll just sometimes, for instance, if you're listening for a specific event, you'll never get that event back. And it's kind of just this black hole of no information. So something to watch out for. I don't know if there's a way that we can actually assert the correct versioning or something of that nature, but it's probably something most people won't run into. But I guess it's worth mentioning that the types that you're using in TypeScript have to match the Solidity smart contracts that are deployed that you're interacting with.
Questions? Cool. Okay. Releases this week. So what went out the door? We did a 1.2.0 alpha release of Market Protocol. Again, our Solidity contracts. We had several releases of the website. I know we've been working on a bit of the mobile CMS blogging feature functionality there. So we're iterating quickly over that. Market.js got a 0.0.6 release, on way to hopefully a 0.1 release shortly. And the types repo continues to get iterated over. So, there was another release there. And any questions on releases this week? Cool. So another section on this, Phil, again, is the brainchild in the technology area, and there's just a lot of information that he has, and I think sometimes he doesn't realize how much is there, and we start to ask questions to him, and then he goes into detailed explanation, and it's actually a very, very positive experience, and we've learned a lot. So this is just an opportunity to do two things. First off, anything that the community or even the core contributors want to ask Phil about our project, our direction, what's going on from an engineering or architectural perspective, here's really an opportunity to do that. And then I think also is that we'll have, from time to time, there'll be some canned topics that Phil might think that's important, to be able to present, maybe spend, 3, 5, 7, 10 minutes on to describe something that's going on here. So anyone on the call have anything they'd like to discuss with Phil, questions about the technology, engineering team, or direction on what we're doing?
Can a question be very specific and oriented towards a small thing that I saw on the new design of the user interface for the dApp?
Lazar, I think anything is good. What I was just trying to do here in this particular section is really give we work at different levels, and there's a lot of minutia, and sometimes it's hard to see the forest because we're in the trees, and this is really that opportunity to step back a little bit and get a little more direction from an architectural or messaging or again, whatever we'd like to talk about here. So why don't we save that for the discussion topics? That's kind of a collect all of anything that might be going on that we didn't discuss somewhere else. Let's do that there.
Cool.
Okay. This is a pregnant pause. Okay. I know it gets a little uncomfortable, doesn't it? Okay. So now, one of the things that as we discussed, how to make the call a little different was to actually show working code, right? A lot of you have been scarred by the agile process and the demos and the retros. So we certainly don't want to go to that extent, but I think it is important. Again, we're in this every single day. And so it's easy to lose sight of the little things that we work on, we take for granted, but I think is really helpful for other people. Another thing too, I think that in an effort to help generate content and get a little bit more visibility, not only for the company, but more specifically the engineering team and how we work, and the great talent that we have on this team, is that it's nice to be able to maybe take some of these demos and 3-5 minutes that we can just slice those off, and Lazar can post that on our YouTube channel. So I think some of this could be really helpful in a variety of ways where devs don't have to, or bounty hunters don't have to go through and sift through this entire video to get to a spot of like, oh, I would like to learn more about, as a user, how do I create a maker side of a market contract, right? Or, tell us a little bit more about your Oracle functionality. So I do have one prepared. It's very simple, very more high level about our Oracleize functionality. And Travis, I'm not sure if you have anything. It's okay if you don't. I just didn't. And by the way, guys, this is also made so that there's not a lot of preparation. There's not a lot of polish, because you've already done the work, and it should just be walking through the code or showing and demoing functionality. So we don't want to make this a dog and pony show either. If we need those, we could take those offline and do more of a canned type of video to be able to present those off to other people and purpose it however we need to. So Travis, did you have anything or not?
Sure. I'm not all the way there, but I do have some stuff we can show, because it is going to change how anyone working in the dApp will work with market.js. So it might be a good idea to just talk about that change that's coming in the pipeline. And we can forego the functionality of the original thing that I started working on that led to this. Was just because I started working on it and then there was some code reuse coming up. So I just started backing up and refactoring so that we didn't reuse code and had some reusable functions and just kind of functionized everything. So let me share my screen. And we'll look at some code and kind of what I did. So Dan on the call will be very familiar with this, because this is something he and I do quite frequently. And when we're dealing with APIs, and for instance, there's a lot of buildup that goes on with working with market.js. There's, you may need decimals, you may need to access stuff from Web3. There's just a whole lot of other extra code that goes into building up the object that gets submitted to market.js to get back whatever it is you're looking for, whether that's an account balance or depositing collateral or creating an order or whatever it is. So within the dApp now, instead of having to work directly with the functions and do all of that, I started abstracting all of that away into essentially a middleware that sits between market.js library and the dApp. And what this does is turn something that used to look like this every time you wanted to get the account balance into this right here. So instead of having to specify and get the market.js instance, you don't have to do any of that anymore. All you'll have to do is import the middleware, as you see here. And then all of the functions that would be available on market.js will be available in the middleware, just as they are. Same name, same namespace, everything, or same function name. So the only thing you've abstracted, so the only thing you have to pass to it now is the actual information that's needed, which will be, an amount or a contract address or something very simple, as you might see here. So just to get an address now, instead of having to deal with maybe converting the format from big number to a string, you can now pass it a Boolean saying that you want it to be converted to a string, and it'll return it to you in a string format. If you want the actual big number, you can get the big number as well. So it's very clean, very reusable, and very stripped down to just having to deal with what you want and get back what you're asking for, instead of all of the other stuff that goes into building it up. And then the same thing can be seen in some exchange. So this will also give you a sneak peek into the coming beta simulation of the exchange that I've been working on. And we'll take a look at that in just a second as well. I just want to show you a more drastic example. So initially, anytime you wanted to deposit collateral, so here's another example of how much abstracting all of that extra stuff away and how clean it makes working with it from the dApp now versus what went on before to work with market.js. So now to deposit collateral, all you simply have to do is pass it an amount that you want to deposit or withdraw. And then the middleware actually comes in here and handles all of the extra stuff, getting the decimals, converting those decimals to a base unit, depositing that collateral, returning your response, showing the successful messages, all of the extra stuff that you don't want to have to deal with every single time you're going to make a deposit or a withdrawal or a trade or any of that. So as we move forward and as I continue to build functionality, we'll continue to add the functions here that we're using, and this will continue to grow until the entire library is covered and we have a very clean and abstract, reusable way of working with the API. And then, so all of that work is being done so that when we come in here, you'll now see that this is the coming functionality for depositing and withdrawing collateral. This is a beta UI. You can select a contract and you'll see that I have some available depositable collateral here, and it's some available withdrawal collateral within this contract, which is an EOS Ethereum contract with an Ethereum collateral. And so you can see that there's a bunch of transactions here that have taken place, and these are just demo withdrawals and deposits that I've made to the contract. So I'm going to do a little quick demo of making a deposit. Quick MetaMask. So there's going to be two requests. The first one is an approval to allow the contract to take the address, and the second one is for your amount. Once your deposit is successful, within a couple of seconds. We're not currently watching the blockchain, so it doesn't update automatically. It's still data. So within a couple of seconds, we just watch our wallet. Still waiting on one more transaction to confirm. All right, so now we should have roughly 27.5 withdrawable collateral. So now we have fully functional. You can add or subtract collateral to a contract. You can now go to our trades, and you'll see I'm working on the interface. Some of this is dummied out. I do have some questions, but I'll take this offline. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole. I just need to get with Phil just to make it known. Phil, I need to get with you after this call. So now we're here, and you can see that we have an available amount in this contract to start making trades. And so we could, this isn't completely connected, but it's starting to get there. And this is very ugly because this is what I'm actively working on. And this is what I started working on before I backed up to refactor all of that stuff, because there was some reuse. Obviously here, wanting to know how much available collateral we had. I didn't want to start duplicating code, so I just backed up and refactored all of that. So it was really nice and useful. So now we're progressing through here, and this is where we're at. And if you make a confirmation, I've started building up the order object, and you can see that here, and that's kind of where we are. So that's what I have to show for the week and what's coming in the pipeline in regards to a simulation of the exchange.
Travis, man, that looks awesome.
Can you guys hear us now?
Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you, but my Zoom seems to have crashed in some weird way. So I'm probably going to have to disconnect and reconnect. I don't know what's going to happen. It seems to have signed me out, even though I still appear to be streaming to you guys.
That's funny because we can still see your
Yeah, we can still see you.
Yeah, it's showing me. Can you see this Zoom cloud? It's showing me it's all signed out when I went to disconnect my streaming. So I'll be right back.
Thanks for the demo. It's really cool to see that functionality. Is there any questions on why we need to deposit collateral or how that works for anyone? All right, cool. Should I maybe go to some of the dApp screens then?
Yeah,
Okay.
Feel free.
Cool. So I'm going to try to present here some of the dApp screens that Ari has been working on. Let me just make sure that I can do this. Let's see.
By the way, I'm rolling old school today, guys. All my shirts were dirty.
Oh, here we go. Share screen. Perfect. All right. You guys see all this?
Yep.
Cool. All right. So Ari, who's our designer, has been working with Nitin, who's starting on Monday, will be full-time with our team as well, to go through the entire dApp and basically create some different screens to assist people in finding contracts, finding the contracts that are most actively traded, and then ones of interest to them as well. So the main landing screen is going to look something of like this. So essentially, if you're already logged into MetaMask, instead of seeing the kind of splash screen that you see right now, you're going to end up seeing kind of a homepage that you've designed a little bit with some draggable widgets to show kind of things of interest to you. So you might have a watch list of contracts that you've traded or are interested in, and as well as maybe some contracts that are going to expire soon, or the ones that are most actively being traded. So there's a few things that need some refinement here, but that's probably going to be the main entry point for people that are already using the dApp. And then eventually we'll have some of the simulated exchange functionality also, so you can then select a contract and actually be able to see an order book and trade it as well. Let me show some of the other screens. He also has gone through some of the deployment screens to clean it up a little bit and make it just simpler to the end user. So this is for the simplified deploy, where we're using an exchange's API as an Oracle to provide pricing data to our contracts on chain. Let's see, they're not quite in order. So let's go back to the dashboard. So we saw deploy 1. So it helps with some visualizations about what the price cap and price floor represent in this screen here. And it goes all the way through. These are all posted in Discord if you want to take a look, but it goes all the way through to a point where we can now select some gas properties of how we're deploying it, and we're creating some infrastructure to allow people to not have to get so technical with gas prices, because it's definitely kind of a sticking point with, I think, general user experience of Ethereum in general, to the point where they can then deploy the contract. And there's a PR right now for some of the functionality around deploying and how that actually looks to the end user, so they understand what's going on while they're waiting for those transactions to be mined. And so this is eventually the screen that will also kind of integrate what's the PR that's out there, and then some of the new functionality to through the deployment screens. Then the Explorer is the other thing that's really getting worked on quite a bit, which will be simplified in some ways to kind of hide some of the information that's there. There's a lot right now. And so simplifying just kind of the look of it and the filtering and searching, as well as giving people some color cues to things of interest, like maybe an expiration date, and just a way of kind of getting more consolidated information versus an expandable grid that we have now. And then there would be kind of like a grid view also with that. Instead of viewing the Explorer just as that data table, you could pull in some kind of more visual information here to have a kind of a grid type view. And we're working on figuring out exactly how this is all going to work. Right now, with some of the pairs we're offering, it's really simple because we're not really offering people that many choices. But theoretically, there can be a lot more choices than what's there, and people can create bespoke contracts that we're not even aware of. So what the image might be for them is a little complicated. So we're thinking through that part of it, but eventually we'd like to have some sort of more like less dense, more visually heavy interface to be able to display the contracts. So that's what Ari's been working on. Feedback's definitely welcome. There's actually a call today, later today for kind of the UI UX stuff on the dApp, and also feel free to post any kind of feedback as we go through the process in the design Discord channel. As these get updated, we'll be sure to post the updated designs there as well.
Just one question, guys. Did I see it correctly, or the current Contract Explorer screen shows only the collateral token? It does not show the underlying asset, the reference asset, correct or no?
Those visual screens are being worked on. We're not quite sure what information we're going to display and how to display it. It's more just a representation of the idea that we want to go through and have a more graphic heavy ability to search these contracts. So I wouldn't take anything there as a final version yet.
Okay, cool.
Any other questions for Phil?
Or input on that stuff? Happy to take input from this call to the UI UX call that's later today also, or any feedback on the dApp in general, I guess, around that. We'll be tackling other pieces of the dApp as we move forward as well.
Well, I guess I can ask you the question that I wanted to, since you've mentioned the feature that's been sort of better explained and, in my opinion, much better solved than on any other dApp that I've seen, which is the gas price setting. As you said, you know, from somebody who doesn't have such a high technological background, who just wants to trade a contract, they don't necessarily always have to, you know, go around to some kind of a gas tracker website and search, you know, what's the best gas price. You've enabled them, as I could see with the new user interface, with an option to just simply use a slider, which I think is beautiful. And the only question that I had about that is basically, what are we using to constantly update the gas price, because it has like, I don't know, 3 sections, cheaper, medium, slow, medium, and fast, right? Depending on the gas price. And if I know my tech correctly, the gas price changes with each block mined, right? So do we use an API from, I don't know, Etherscan gas tracker, or how do we update what's fast and what's slow in real time?
Yeah, so we're using an API. I believe it's connected to ETH gas station. That's where I might be able to answer that more accurately, but I'm pretty sure that's the API that we're calling.
Yeah. So like currently we do have integration with the ETH gas station. So we basically, at the start of loading the dApp, we fetch the current gas prices that are there. And so we kind of, before deploying contract, there is a field, input field, where we kind of show what is the gas limit and gas price recommended for this particular transaction to go through. So that is like how we are handling right now.
That's great, because it's pretty easy, and as long as it's updated in real time, and since you're using an API, then that means it is. I think that's a beautiful solution that you guys selected. The simpler the better for people. Just to know, like, slow, medium, and fast is quite enough for an average user, I think.
Awesome. Well, thanks for all the comments and the feedback there on the dApp stuff. And then I guess I'll let Robert take it over.
Yeah, let's see here. So got a short demo. Let me figure out, this is where I want to go.
I may need to, well, I don't know if it's how it's gonna work with, oh, it worked. Great.
Did it work? You got it? Sorry guys, just to the agenda. So one of the areas I think that ties really well into what Travis showed was that if you noticed on that dApp screen where you were transferring collateral, there were bid and asks. It's a little bit of a way to get to where we're gonna show you how those bids and asks are to get populated initially in the simulated exchange. But one of the areas that's important for our particular application, and quite frankly many others that are in the dApp space, is the concept of an oracle. And the oracle, what that does is provides mainly off-chain and also API data to help the smart contract, to help the process do something specific. In our situation, we have to deal with settlement. And settlement deals with some sort of underlying, which could be something like Apple stock. It could be many other assets. And so currently, we're partnered with a company called Oracleize It. And the types of queries, and again, if you were to notice the JSON brackets, and there was some other notation after the closed parentheses. Today, what we do is that there are multiple query sources or essentially data sources. Right now, we're supporting the URL type of data sources, and then more specifically, the ones that have the queries of the JSON parsing. So you'll see that in the example here, you'll see this is a Kraken example of getting a paired ETH USD and returning the price of that pair. And so this is how the queries are typically, or they are constructed. And you'll see that there are 2 ways. If you're familiar with XPath, there's a similar specification, I'll call it, called JSON path, that does some very similar things that XPath does. And so there are a couple of projects out there. There's this one that has basically a fork off of an individual that was involved, Stefan Gostner's original post. You can read through that. There's also a secondary project that, come on, get out of my way. I'm gonna move this. That is JSON Path Plus, but as you see here, there's some performance problems with it. So just know there's a couple of projects out there to get your job done. I'm using JSON Path. And so in the dApp, this is the beta dApp that's deployed currently. And you'll see that under a deployed contract, here's the query. And again, starts with JSON because that's what we support at this point. The URL inside of that can really essentially be any data source that returns JSON. And then this is the JSON path structure that you would use to pull out the specific information that you're looking for. So as an implementation of that, inside of, let me change my screen. There is a market API, and the market API essentially is a really simple endpoint that allows us to take and return signed orders from the buy and sell side. And so essentially what I'm doing here is I'm just grabbing the Oracle query, I'm pulling it apart by doing a match, doing some data integrity, make sure that I've got a URL there. And then essentially the JSON path construct is really simple. I pass it the data and the parameters, which come from the JSON path extension, the dot, what's after the closing parentheses, and essentially returns a single value here because that's essentially what we work with today. So in doing so, to connect all of this together, you'll see in here, it's a simple endpoint. So if I give a market contract, and in the dApp, that was this address here, and then I specify, if I specify no other parameter, it'll simply return 5 signed contracts on the buy and the sell side. There also, if you notice the price, there's a little bit of randomness, so they appear to be from different makers, although the maker address is the same, and the sell side as well has that variation. And then if I take and I put, let's say I only want 2 signed contracts for the buy and sell side, I can just simply add a parameter onto the end of that to specify how many signed contracts I would like. So what will happen is that in our simulated exchange, we'll be using the basis of the Oracle query to then develop the buy and the sell side of those contracts. And then the simulated exchange on the dApp, you'll see as Travis showed, the bids and the asks, those contracts will appear there. So again, just trying to connect the pieces, give you a little bit more information about oracles, how we use them, and then also something to pay attention to for the future is that we also have announced a partnership with Chainlink that allows us to expand the types of oracles that we use to be able to potentially grab data from a variety of sources to help us settle the contracts that we have on our blockchain and on the protocol. So,
point of clarity, we're not quite partnered with Chainlink yet. We're working through some things with them to understand what more would be needed to implement with them. So it's definitely something we're researching and interacting with their team on.
So here's a great example of another company that provides Oracle services that we might work with.
Yeah.
Edit that out, what I just said, and then
It totally doesn't matter. No, it's great. They're really responsive and a very cool project as well.
Awesome. All right. Any questions? Really simple, high level overview, but hopefully you can see how some of the pieces connect together. All right, great. So let me bring this back around. Back to my agenda. Discussion topics. I think, Lazar, you have your question answered or your comment delivered?
Yes.
Awesome. Sounds good. Anything else that we didn't cover on the call you'd like to get off your chest or share with us? All right, so next week, just let's quickly go through core-wise. what are some of our goals for next week? And I know from a quick overview on the market.js project, that's something that's critical for us to continue to make progress on, and also provide a lot of integration points into the dApp, namely in the simulated exchange. Am I missing anything else, Travis or Eswar?
By next week, potentially also the interface for fill orders. I know Phil and I have talked about it. It's going to depend where we're at with the actual trade orders, creating the initial order. But we may be able to get an interface for filling the order as well. I think.
Thank you. Ezra, anything to add?
Yeah, we also have like new contract deployment flow that is just merged to develop for the dApp. So maybe we can definitely show a quick demo on that.
Yeah, that's a good point, because when we redeploy the contracts, if things go haywire, check that just to make sure that everything, you're in sync if something goes sideways. All right, gentlemen, I don't see any ladies on the call. So let's do this. Please give me some feedback. I know we went almost an hour here. We can strike anything that's not helpful. We can do less of some things, more of other things. But we really want to make sure that this call is focused on getting you information that's valuable. I don't think that anyone's going to look at the entire or listen to the entire call, or not a lot of people. Although I think there are snippets inside of that we can definitely extract and make available for better self-serve as well. So that's one of the things that we're looking at doing. Anything else from the community or core right now?
I just want to, just briefly thank everyone for joining, especially some of the new people. And yeah, excited for another week working with everyone. I think there's a lot of really incredible pace going on with the project, and to see a lot of really, really great commits going through from core team and contributors. So I'm really happy with that and excited to keep on moving forward.
All right, everyone. Thanks again. Happy deving. Happy Superman Day. Get your capes out.
Happy Superman Day.
And just now that I have the video, right? My cape is the Colorado blockchain cape.
We'll have to get Kevin Owaki made that, so we'll have to get Kevin Owaki to make us some market protocol capes. All right, we're gonna stop recording there as Robert just kind of goes off into oblivion. Have a great day, everyone.
See ya.
See you guys.